Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Julie Savin. She is the Director of Real Estate Development for Neighborworks New Horizons. And we'll meet her and learn all about it when we come back, so stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Julie Savin. She is a first-timer on the show. She's the Director of Real Estate Development for Neighborworks New Horizons. First of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Sean.
And tell us what Neighborworks New Horizons is.
Neighborworks New Horizons is a nonprofit 501c3 that does a variety of housing programs and community outreach. We're based out of New Haven with an office, satellite office here in New London. And our legal name is Mutual Housing Association of South Central Connecticut. But as a charter member of Neighborworks America, which was created by Congress in the late 70s, we decided to take on the trademark name of Neighborworks and now refer to ourselves as Neighborworks New Horizons.
Do you think that's the smart idea, adopt that name? Maybe people might know that one a little bit more.
Sure. People in the industry know who Neighborworks America is.
Now, when you say Congress enacted it or created this, why was it, when it was, why was it decided that something like that was necessary?
There was a grassroots organization created by a woman in Philadelphia, I believe, and it was about changing a neighborhood. And it suddenly became very apparent nationwide that housing issues were on the forefront. And there had to be a quasi-government organization to handle such matters. And then a series of evolvements occurred over a period of time, and Neighborworks America became what it is today.
Well, and so is it it really is all over the country?
It really is.
Is it in every state?
In every state, I believe, yes.
And how is it now? So your main office is down in, you say, the New Haven area?
Yes.
Okay, and how is it decided that you would also have a New London office too? And and those two offices encompass the whole state, correct?
Well, right now we're focused mainly on New Haven County and New London County. We do have a project for seniors that we're working on in Southington.
Okay.
We haven't grown large enough to cover statewide.
Right.
We also have partners that handle other parts of the state.
Like the Hartford area and stuff like that.
Absolutely. There's a mutual housing in Hartford. There are neighborhood housing services, which are members of Neighborworks America also, in the other parts of the state. So the whole Fairfield County area is handled by other organizations.
Now, so who exactly do you help with this nonprofit organization? Who comes to you? Who needs the help, and how do you help them?
Okay. Well, the folks on the street generally utilize our services immediately through our education programs. And we have a large education program in the New Haven office. We haven't launched anything on a permanent basis in New London yet. We started testing the waters a couple of years ago. What we do there primarily is community outreach, work with our current residents. But we also do, for the man on the street, financial literacy, budgeting, and accounting work. We also do a homebuyer education program. A lot of the lenders these days are requiring an 8-hour CHFA certified class, homebuyer education class,
so
before you can get a mortgage.
Wow, 8 hours.
8 hours.
You sit through. Wow.
You do, and
I want credit. I want college credit for that.
We give you a piece of paper.
Okay.
That you can frame.
All right.
We don't frame it. But with the housing crash, as it may be, 2005, 2006.
So that early, huh?
In 2007,
wow.
A lot of studies were done over the 3 years that the housing crash began. Okay. And people who were losing their homes didn't have the benefit of 8-hour education classes. We were finding a very low number of people actually fell into the trap of refinancing, cash out, things that in the education classes they're taught about your asset and how to handle it and how to take care of it. So the value of the 8-hour classes is profound.
So yeah, you really can learn something from it, and it could, prevent you from really being caught off guard. I would imagine somebody who did might say, "Don't knock it." It can save your butt, maybe. Having that knowledge. And it's one day, a work day's worth of classes that you sit through, 8 hours, and maybe you can prevent yourself some heartache that someone else earlier on might not have been able to prevent.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. But it also teaches you how to shop for a mortgage. Some people think they only have one option for a mortgage. That is not the case. Different banks have different programs at different times of the years for different communities, and you have to shop it around. It does not hurt. And all you will get in the end is the best rate for the product that you're buying, for the house that you're buying. It teaches you about insurance. It teaches you about the home inspection. So there's a lot of aspects, especially for a first-time home buyer, to become aware of when buying a house.
Absolutely. There's so many people that will decide, have made up their mind that they want to buy a house, but really don't have the slightest knowledge of all the little intricacies that go in. They might not even realize that you have to have an inspector come in, and this person looks at that, and closing costs and points and things that they might not have even ever heard of before.
Right.
They just know they want to buy.
Right.
They're ready to buy.
And a really good realtor will actually hold your hand through a lot of the steps.
Yeah.
And advise you properly. So that's also touched on in the class. There's a lot of the lawyer. What does a lawyer do for you, and what's that going to cost you? There's a lot of aspects about buying a home that you do cover in 8 hours. And when you come to our classes in New Haven, we generally provide coffee and lunch.
There you go. That's what and a break somewhere in between there, right?
Yes.
Now, some of the stuff could seem boring to somebody. Is it taught in a way, do you think that people would retain a lot of the knowledge sitting in one of those classes?
I do, and
Take notes.
I do, and I think that other organizations that do the same thing that we do, because we're not the only ones that do it, we bring in guest speakers.
Oh.
So we don't have one person in front of you for 8 hours lecturing you, because that could be snoozeville. I mean, that could be so boring.
Right.
We bring in a lawyer to tell us, well, what do you do? And we bring in a banker. This is the process. We bring in a realtor. So we bring in all kinds of people that are the experts in that particular subject.
It really sounds invaluable. Would you agree that let me back up, the current economic situation that we're in now, recession, whatever you want to call it, would you agree that the housing market was sort of the catalyst for it? It was the first to collapse, I guess, or at least early on, and the domino effect did continue. Was that the early indicator of what would be what we're in now?
Absolutely. That no one could really dispute that. In my previous life, before I started working here, I worked for a municipality, and we did first-time home buyer down payment grant programs. So the whole underwriting came to us for approval. And we started seeing, and this goes back to 2005, we started seeing some really bad lending products. And we started seeing people who make a very low income, buying a house that back of the napkin could tell you doesn't work.
Yeah.
So how did they get qualified for this mortgage? So there were a few of us in the New Haven area that actually had sort of this aha moment. What is happening to these people that are getting involved in these products? And lo and behold, we found out that there was the no documentation mortgage underwriting and some downright fraud occurring. And then all of a sudden, nationwide, those of us on the front lines started to see exactly what we wished we could have predicted.
It was a house of cards.
It was also sort of an aha moment. We sort of saw this coming.
Yeah.
So anybody in the industry that tells you they didn't see it coming,
Well,
not telling you
I
the
was going to
truth.
ask you if you wanted to comment your opinion on what the whole Fannie Mae and things of that sort. Can you comment on it, or would you prefer not to? But I mean, you said you've seen it coming.
Yeah.
Freddie
Well,
Mac, Fannie Mae.
I have to say, Fannie's a good partner of ours.
All right.
So I
Okay,
mean,
fair enough.
I think a lot of us made a lot of mistakes.
Right.
And I mean,
The system was flawed.
Even back in 2005, I saw these products coming through,
Yeah.
and maybe shouldn't have signed my name onto some of these. It's sort of, sort of the 11th hour, ringing the alarm bell, and it was a little too late. So I think everybody in the industry has a little bit of ownership to this.
Considering what we're in right now, the recession and the housing market the way it is your job very different now, or would it be different now if there was no housing market crash to begin with?
And on one hand, it's been a really refreshing experience, because now we have qualified buyers coming through the doors, and those who aren't qualified are working on their credit, either with our office or with a couple of other offices, depending on how serious your credit repair is, the needs are. We're going through the old school way, getting back to basics of our finances. And so it's sort of refreshing because now we're back to where it should be. It's hugely false that the press, they were killing me for a couple of years because they were saying that lenders aren't lending to end buyers. And that's absolutely not the truth, and it never has been. Because I've been selling homes, buying homes and rehabbing them and selling them to income qualified buyers, lower income qualified buyers, straight through 2007, 2008, now 2009 and 10. So people have always gotten their mortgage. It's just they're now better qualified.
Well, when the media says that you weren't selling to the end buyer, who do they think that you were selling to? A middleman type person that would resell it?
The banks just weren't lending.
Okay.
The headlines were banks aren't lending. So people who would normally go and search for a mortgage might have been sitting on the couch. So the housing market was slowed, in my opinion, even more. Because you had qualified buyers out there. The press, I took every chance I could to when I was talking in public, saying, the press, you're killing me. Because I have local banks, Diamond, Liberty, and I'll plug in all the good banks were lending. They were providing construction loans to us, and they were providing mortgages to qualified buyers. And that hasn't stopped.
As we sit here and tape this show, how is the housing market right now? Is it on the upslide? I mean, can you see a light at the end of the tunnel, or are we still in it?
I think we're still in it, but I think, in my opinion, again, my humble opinion, we're coming to the end. When we started to do our research, when we started to see things were going to start to collapse, and indeed did, I partnered with some folks at Yale and with the Greater New Haven Community Loan Fund. And we had some students do a study about who are providing these bad mortgages and what's happening to those buyers now. And that was in 2005. It was a couple of years before we really saw it crash.
We'll actually take a break right now. And so what I want you to do is I want you to give out the website. Go ahead.
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
The website is www.nwnh.net.
And what can they find on the website?
You can find our homebuyer education schedule. You can find our ready-to-rent classes. We do provide for folks who've had some difficulty with getting into rentals. Sometimes if you can prove you've went to a ready-to-rent class, we have those. We have our rental applications for our projects, and we also have homebuyer applications for any of our homebuyer projects we have available.
Nice.
And we have an 800 number, which is 1-800-270-7517.
All right, we'll put that graphic up on the screen too. Julie Savin, Director of Real Estate Development for Neighborworks, New Horizons. We'll take a break and come back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest is Julie Savin, Director of Real Estate Development for Neighborworks, New Horizons. We were chatting. I want you to tell us a little bit more about that Yale study that you were talking about, because I find it fascinating, because we kind of established that housing market sort of was the initial indicator. It was the start of the economic recession that we're in now. And I just want to talk about us potentially coming out of it, but talk about that study a little bit too.
So in my opinion, we are going to start seeing getting a little above our heads above the water now, because when we did the study in 2005 into 2006, we noticed that a lot of the mortgages, the bad mortgages, if you will, all had 5-year resets, meaning that the adjustable rate mortgage, the ARMs, were going to reset in 5 years. So, and that's exactly what happened. As soon as those rates went from 7 to 14%, people could no longer afford those monthly payments.
Boy, double, you know?
Oh, tripled in some cases.
Wow.
I mean, just at a point where people walked away. And so we knew that 2011, the beginning of 2011, we were definitely going to see another wave. And indeed we have. There has been some slowdown because of the court system and the way that the state of Connecticut operates the foreclosure program, the foreclosure process. But we're really hoping 2011 is leading to 2012. Now we've had a few years to correct how we provide mortgages to people. So there's a really safe guess that we are coming out of it. But it's going to take yet another probably calendar year.
Do you think being an election year, presidential-wise, that, you know, depending on, I guess it really doesn't matter who is in office, you know, there'll be differing philosophies, maybe stimulus on one side or something else, cut back on, you know, the size of government on the other hand. Would that make any difference, do you think, as far as the housing market goes? I guess it depends on policy, really.
I really don't. I think that, again, we as a lending community have learned a lesson, and as a government we have put in some policy in place for lenders to follow. We have ridden that wave of foreclosures for a few years now, and I think we're going to see, just naturally, we're going to see some correction. The market will indeed correct itself. I don't believe who's in the office at this point is going to really affect that. I think who could help us in the job market, and that's not my foray, but that's where we could see some changes with leadership.
You've got to have a job to be able to pay for the mortgage or the rent or anything else for that matter. With so many homes foreclosed on, I guess it's a good time to be on the buyer's market, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, you have your pick.
Yeah.
We have the lowest interest rates available for qualified buyers. And I mean, there are some people doing 15-year mortgages, because just remember, a few years ago, the good rate was 6 or 7%.
Wow.
You're talking under 4 now. So if you really can afford to double up on a payment,
your house is paid off in 15 years.
You got it.
So you're saving some big-time interest money there, right?
I mean, that's about creating wealth. Now, some people can't do that, and that's okay. But we have lowest interest rates. We have all the programs available. We have banks that are willing to lend. It's a great time. And the housing market is very solid, I think, in southern New England, southeastern Connecticut. We have definitely some good buys out there, and it's definitely holding its own. The prices are definitely holding their own.
And a bank doesn't really want to own a house, right? They want to just, but yet they'll still haggle a little bit over a potential. If there's only one buyer, will they basically just sell it to them if there's only one person interested? Or, I mean,
a bank-owned property?
Yeah, a bank-owned property, and there's one person interested in buying the property. The bank doesn't want to own it. Let's say it was foreclosed on. They don't want to own it. If one person comes along, for the most part, will they sell it to them?
Sometimes, if the price is right. The banks really learned a lesson, especially the banks that held a lot of these real estate-owned, these REO properties. A lot of the larger banks, to be honest with you. Some of our local small banks really escaped it in a good way. But the banks realized that they had to take a haircut in order to get these off of their books. And they were quite motivated. At first they they thought they could get a lot more. But as the value of that home continued to drop, there was no way that they were going to get the price that was owed to them, you know, that the original buyer took out. There was no way they were going to get it. And the longer that a foreclosed property sits, the more deterioration that occurs. Vandals, people breaking in.
Not to mention taxes aren't paid on that property, you know, so a municipality is losing money, income that way.
Yeah, not all the time. Most of the bank-owned properties, the banks continue to pay the taxes because now they own it.
That's a good point, and they don't want to own it, so they're saying, please buy this.
So the city's motivated to get them fixed up, and the city of New London in particular and others in the state are going through their second round of Neighborhood Stabilization Program funding, which was first enacted under the Housing and Economic Recovery Act under Bush for NSP 1. Now we're going through NSP 3, Norwich and New London in this side of the state, but also other communities on the other side of the state are all recipients of NSP dollars, and that is for folks like organizations like Neighborworks to go out, buy the foreclosed properties, do proper rehab, and sell them to income qualified buyers, rather than how we refer to them as bottom feeders. You get these out-of-state people coming in, snatching up. They try to flip them, and they do. They don't do proper rehab. They don't bring them back to life. They don't. Sometimes they just. And there's nothing wrong with rentals, but sometimes a street requires home ownership as anchors to the community, and just to put in more rental folks into homes that are continue to be substandard isn't the way to stabilize a neighborhood that's experiencing a great deal of foreclosure.
Is there anything you can do to prevent from what you call the out-of-staters from coming in just to do a quick flip? I guess you really can't prevent it, right?
You have organizations that utilize NSP dollars that are coming through the municipalities, and we go out there with cash. See, our out-of-state or bottom feeders, if you will, it's probably a bad thing to bring up.
What a cool name.
Whoa. Well, you can use it for a lot of other things. They have cash,
Yeah.
so they are most competitive. Remember, the bank wants to unload this property,
Right.
and they can close in 14 days with a cash buyer because banks want it off their books before the start of the next month. Someone, normally in my position, without that cash of NSP, I have to get a bank loan. It takes me 60 days to close, and we were continually losing all of the foreclosures to the investment.
Right.
Folks. So NSP came in to correct that. Let's get the money in the hands of the people that can spend it appropriately and turn that house around and get it to anchor the community.
With so many houses available, does that mean that there's not a lot of new housing being built because of that, the way it is right now?
Well, everything that I'm reading, the new housing starts are quite low. And some of our large square footage homes are quite low.
Do you deal with the condo market at all?
I don't. I have colleagues who do, and I was tempted to get involved into a couple of condo deals that had gone south. We stayed away from it.
Do you have a personal opinion on condos versus the typical home ownership, or just a different strokes for different folks kind of thing?
You know, it's difficult to do a condo deal. There are a lot of regulations right now with condo deals, and we sell to a lower income family or a moderate income family, and they require a CHFA or an FHA-backed loan. And unless a condo deal has sold so many units and is so much completed, CHFA and FHA won't lend to the buyer for that particular condo. So it's tough as a developer to come along and do a condo deal.
So for a person with a particular, who's in a particular income range, is it actually almost easier for them to buy a typical home as opposed to a condo?
Sometimes, because what home buyers need to do is look at what that condo fee is going to be.
Right. And
Because
all
that's
that
on
is,
top of your mortgage.
All that is so that you yourself don't have to shovel the walk or mow the grass or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's awfully nice.
Yes.
And
but
so,
you know what, at your house you can pay somebody to do that too, you know?
Absolutely, and sometimes it's less if you can hire out yourself in a house. You could probably save money less than what that condo fee is. So just be careful what the condo fee is, because you've got a budget for that every month. And we find that some of our buyers don't have that extra money for a condo fee if they're quite capable of taking care of.
And it's certainly not top of mind when they're thinking about buying. It's just something that they don't think about. They just think about the cost and the down payment and what their interest rate will be on a mortgage, but that extra monthly fee of condo fee you just don't think about. So if someone's watching this show and they think they might, you know, maybe we've inspired them to at least begin the process of what do they do? What's the first thing they do? They want to get in touch with you.
Well, definitely call our office, which again, we have the 800 number, 800-270-7517, and ask for Melanie or Jose, and they will start them on the road to getting the homebuyer education class. If it doesn't suit if their schedule doesn't fit them, then go to the Connecticut Finance Housing Authority, Connecticut Housing Finance Authority, CHFA, their website. Click on home ownership, click on homebuyer classes, and CHFA has the list of all the CHFA 8-hour homebuyer classes in the state of Connecticut, the whole schedule. Get yourself into a homebuyer education class. Go to see a bank, one bank, and try to get pre-qualified so you know what it is that you can afford.
Right.
And when I say afford, HUD and myself, we believe that, and Neighborworks New Horizons believes that affording a home, whether it's rental or home ownership, that you are not paying any more than 30% of your income towards your housing expenses, and that would be mortgage, principal, interest, insurance, taxes, and your utilities, and a condo or homeowners association fee. Make sure that when you add that all up, it's not more than 30% of your income.
Good tip. And
because if it is, you can't afford it.
yeah, and you don't want to get yourself in trouble a little ways down the road.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we are out of time. We're going to put the graphic and the phone number back up on the screen, and thank you very much, Julie Savin, Director of Real Estate Development for Neighborworks New Horizons, for being on the show today. Very much appreciated.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. We will see you next time. Take care.